has been a while, but welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now.
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, I am happy to say we are back in the content grind, and it's been quite an interesting couple of weeks, mainly because I've been to a regional and I've also been to a sneak peek, and the deck that I used has been arguably pretty good, to be honest. I've been liking it a lot, mainly because I like the two archetypes, and it makes for some pretty good interactions. And obviously I'm going to give you guys a deck profile and a deck list, but I just wanted to run down obviously how I got on during both the regional and the sneak peek. So with regards to the regional, I ended up X3 and dropping. I lost the first round. I think it was like, when was the regional now? Probably about a week or so ago. But yeah, I lost the first round, then I went undefeated for the next three games basically. So I was like X1 after round 4. But then I proceeded to lose, and it kind of tilted me just because of the way that I lost. Like, I knew what I should have been doing. I should have nibbed earlier. I think I was playing against Malice and I didn't nib at the correct time, and it just meant my opponent just got way too many resources on the board with all the layered interaction that Malice has. It just kind of like stumped me, and that kind of quote unquote tilted me, to be honest. And then I proceeded to lose again, and then I just ended up dropping from the tournament, which was a little bit unfortunate, but I was pretty happy with the way that the deck was performing, and it was nice in a sense that I knew that it was my own fault why I lost, not necessarily the deck's matchup, because the matchup was fairly decent. Now, Kashtira Fiendsmith is what I was playing, and whilst I was at the regional, I played nothing but meta bar one. I think I played like somebody who was playing trap tricks, and I was just like, wow, this is crazy. But yeah, apart from that, it was Feindsmith, Rizio, pure Rizio, Malice. Yeah, it was literally just all meta, and this deck stood up to most decks. And the interesting thing is, I believe I did not win a single die roll all day. so I was going second all day, which was just absolutely crazy. So managed to go X3. I wasn't the best in the best of conditions. I came home and I got sick after that, and then obviously for the remainder of that week I was out of it. However, I have been to the Supreme Darkness sneak peek, and here it is. Oh, make sure you can see. I managed to take it, ladies and gents. There we go. I managed to win the sneak peek event, which was really good, to be honest. There was only 3 rounds. It wasn't the largest of events, but it was in a different quote-unquote format. A lot of the times it used to be like draft format, where you just pull the packs or pull the cards out of the pack and then you just play with those cards. But in this instance, everybody kind of like voted to just use their standard decks, because they couldn't guarantee like a fair and balanced way of doing it. So we just thought, you know what, we'll just play as a normal locals, and that's what we agreed on the floor, which was great. And it meant that we just played the deck. So I played Feindsmith Kashtira once again, and was highly successful with the deck. The deck was just cooking everybody. It was a bit of an awkward last round, just because of the way that I managed to win out, but nevertheless I managed to win the map. And I'm kind of thinking about YCS Birmingham now, because obviously that's my home city, so I definitely will be attending. And I'm just considering what decks to take, because I got a whole host of support cards for various archetypes, which I'm very interested in, which I potentially might even bring, providing I can squeeze Feindsmith in there somewhere, because I just feel like Feindsmith at the moment it just offers so much in the way of playing Yu-Gi-Oh, because it's just able to grind. It's able to kind of like keep you in the game with the way that it recycles its resources. But ladies and gents, without me wasting any more time talking about my last week or so in Yu-Gi-Oh, well, the beginning of 2025 basically, let's get straight into the deck profile, and I'll just run through exactly what I played, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So I'll see you in the next one. Okay, ladies and gents, so this is the list. Let's get straight into it. Apologize for the little bit of an echo. I'm actually recording in my conservatory, so let's get straight into it. So starting us off with the Kashtira stuff, obviously we were playing 3 Fenrir, served me well. This actually card is quite solid in simplified game states, which you'll find yourself in a lot, especially with the amount of hand traps that you play in this list. So having a Fenrir on field alongside like an Ash Blossom, potentially a Bal, Imperm, it goes a long way basically, and it's quite a big body at 24 to get over. Triple Unicorn, this card, again, it applies so much pressure to your opponent. If you put this on field first and then go into your Feindsmith line, your opponent's very, very hesitant to hand trap you, mainly because you'll just rip something out the extra deck. And as we all know, extra decks right now are super duper tight, ladies and gents. Like, it's so imperative to hold on to all your cards in your extra deck. Like, Desires in like main decks is not a problem, but once you start hitting extra deck pieces, that's when you fall into problems. Also played one Kashtira Fiendsmith just for a bit more bodies and extension. One Kashtira Theosis, and obviously the OG OP card Kashtira Birth, which just absolutely just terrorizes the Feindsmith stuff, especially if you've got a unicorn on field. And then obviously the 2 pressured planets. And that's it for the cash stuff, to be fair. Pretty straightforward, pretty cut and dry, pretty minimal. Onto the Feindsmith stuff. We all know how this goes, ladies and gents. Triple Engraver goes without saying. Always playing 3 of this. You want to search it, you want to find your stuff. The 1 Lacrima as well as the 1 Fabled Lorry. There is an argument to play 2 Lacrima because you can pseudo use it as a normal summon, but I only own 1 and I didn't feel like I needed the second one, to be honest. Mainly because you've got so many other things that you can do with your turn, and just having another Lacrima in hand doesn't necessarily serve any additional purpose. Well, at least that's what I found anyway. We was also playing the double tracked as well as the 1 Feindsmith in Paradise. Obviously, this is cut and dry, and what I will say is, well, obviously I mentioned this previously, but like Feindsmith, Rizio and Malice was everywhere at the regional, ladies and gents. I mean everywhere. Literally, I'd say at least 80% of the room was playing those cards. It was unbelievable, like the amount of Feindsmith, Rizio. You're always gonna have your odd random janky rogue decks. I mean, I played against Trap Tricks, which I found was a bit outstanding. It was a bit surprising, to be honest, but it's everywhere, ladies and gents. Like, you will run into Feindsmith in any tournament, at least up until Supreme Darkness releases. Speaking of hand traps, let's go through them. So there are 16 in total, I believe. So triple Ash Blossom, protection against Fuwalos, Perulia, solid card, as well as triple Drow. This overperformed, to be honest. Especially, like, there was some pure Rizio in the room, and obviously the Feindsmith cards have shot up in price. So I think people's preference would be to play Feindsmith Rizio, but because there's a little bit of barrier to entry in terms of the price of the cards, it meant that people were playing pure. And if you've ever played pure Rizio, ladies and gents, you'll know that it's not the most consistent, especially if you're starting off your turn with Bonfire. So a lot of the times what was happening was my opponent would start off with Bonfire, get the search for like X, Sword, anything of that nature, any kind of extender, and then they'll draw them, and then they're like, oh, okay. So it just ends up on making Detonator pass, which is something that's quite easily outable in a deck like this, especially with so many other hand traps. But yeah, Drow definitely overperformed. I'm not going to say it's the best into Malice, because I did play against a few Malice players and I just took this card out straight away. But then you just replaced the Drow with Artifact Lancier in your side, and that was in my side, so spoiler alert there. But yeah, Drow did overperform. Against most other strategies, it's really solid. You just... I wouldn't say it cuts their turn down, but it reduces the potency of your opponent's field. So just having a Droll in the main deck definitely stunned a few players. Like, I know there's a few players out there that would argue that this should be in the side deck, but I quite like it in the main, just to kind of like stunt my opponent's turn. Double Veiler, as well as the double Nib, the double Bow, the singular Ghost Mourner, and the triple Infinite Impermanence. Now, Ghost Bell overperformed. It was absolutely crazy. Like, where is it? Where is he? Where is she? Ghost Bell was absolutely unbelievable, ladies and gents. Like, I was having a discussion with one of my friends who also attended the regional, and he was like, you know what, I'd probably put Ghost Bell in the side deck because I don't feel like it's got that many applications. But believe me, it does. Like, it hits so many cards in the format, and I know I made a video about it previously, but seeing it in action and speaking to some of the other guys that I was with at the regional, there was like, you know what, Ghost Bat overperformed. It's won me a game. It's turned my game 1 loss into a 2-0 reverse sweep. So it's just that strong of a card right now, especially with like Malice as well. Like, if they activate the field spell and you Ghost Spell the field spell, it negates the activation, and then they have to send the field spell to the graveyard. So you've effectively just got rid of a card off the field, which could be used in some way, shape or form, but it just means that it's no longer in the field. And hitting the White Binder, hitting the GWC, hitting the field spell, hitting Rise Your plugin. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So very solid, and especially in the next format. Potentially, I haven't read Twins of the Eclipse as yet, but there might be some application against Twins of the Eclipse with Ghost Spell. So definitely the inclusion. And what I will say is, with regards to the ratios, having a couple of 2-ofs meant that I was not bricking on multiple hand traps of the same, multiple identical hand traps basically, which was really solid, ladies and gents. It really pushed me to be able to interact with my opponent in various situations, just because I've seen so many different hand traps at once. So I did like the ratio of hand traps, and it didn't feel too overbearing. I know 16 is not the highest count, but it's definitely not the lowest. So solid in that regard. Then onto the spells, the quote-unquote God spell, triple tactics talents. Hand traps are everywhere, interaction is everywhere. Rise Your Detonator for a start is going to trigger on your opponent's turn, so you're gonna resolve talents. It's not even a question. It's just when do you decide to resolve it. More times than not, I'm taking that Detonator, I'm making a Zeus, I'm wiping the field, and then I'm playing in main phase 2. So definitely a solid card right now. I would urge you to play 3 if you can, if you own 3. If you own 2, you're playing 2. Call by the Grave goes without saying. I hit so many cards with this card. It was just it was unbelievable. So I played against a couple of Malice players, and what they were doing was trying to banish the Malice main deck monsters out of the graveyard with their bestial effects, and I'll just call by the Grave it, and it's just stunned my opponent out of playing. And not only that, it turns off that Malice name for a couple of turns. So the White Binder I managed to banish, which was just so rough for my opponent. I managed to banish a Dormouse as well, which is obviously one of their play starters. So Call by the Grave was very solid. I was lucky enough to see at least 4 out of the 7 matches I played. So yeah, 6 matches I played. And then the final card, which was a bit of a spicy tech for myself, was Monster Reborn. I love this card. This is one of my favorite cards. I've always liked the idea of playing out of the graveyard, and that's exactly what this card does. Now the reason why I put it in is because Feindsmith was everywhere. So I was taking people's Lacrimas, reborning it, dumping, and not using up my normal summon just because they had the materials engraved. Typically they would chain the Lacrima to kind of shuffle it back or do something with it basically, but it definitely went a long way in either to playing into a board or just extending. Nibiru was everywhere, so typically once you've got your Necrocrypt Princess alongside your Engraver, your opponent's going to nib, and you can just bring something back. It's just as simple as that. Whether that's a cash name, whether that's your Engraver, whether that's a Lacrima, just went a long way, ladies and gents. So I definitely did like Monster Reborn for that particular event. In locals, I potentially would just take this out and put something else in. You could put another hand trap in if you wanted, or even just main deck the Harpy's Feather Duster. Next, onto the extra deck, double Feindsmith Requiem, as well as the singular Moon of the Closed Heaven. I went for the 2 Requiem just because I was scared of cash cards, and getting your extra deck ripped is horrible. Obviously, when my opponent looked at my extra deck and seen these 2, they was kind of stumped as to what to take, because they wasn't expecting a second one. But I didn't play against much in the way of Kashtira whilst I was at the regional, but obviously when I was testing against a couple of cash variants, and Requiem was just getting ripped all day long. So it was nice to just have a little bit of a backup. 1 Haggard Lizardos, just in case I needed to clear my field for the Kashtira monsters. I'll just link into this. 1 SP Little Knight, because it's SP Little Knight. 1 Feindsmith Sequence, obviously, as well as the 1 Agnum Day. I decided to play the Agnum Day just in case I got into a simplified game state and I wanted to kind of resolve things quickly. Also, it's another nice little send, a target for your Lacrima if you get that far. So Lacrima can reborn this, and this can quick effect reborn your Desiree back onto the field as long as you've correctly summoned him. So I did like that. For the Fusion Monsters, we played double Desiree as well as the 1 Necrocrypt. Same reasoning behind the tracks. I just didn't want to get it ripped out of my extra deck, so I decided to play 2. And also, if I didn't have access to, say if I went second, for example, and I wanted to get rid of the Feindsmith in Paradise, I could dump 1 Desiree and then use it to either fusion material for the actual Desiree I want on field, or I can use it to just obviously use Desiree's effect just to send a card. So yeah, Desiree, that was solid, to be honest. And then the last few cards, we had obviously the 1 DDD High Wave King Caesar.
the Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. I made this a couple of times by taking people's detonators and just wiping their field. It was quite satisfying to resolve, to be honest. The one Sky Slayer Typhon. This was nice. This is actually quite interesting because you can get into a situation where you just have this on field and you're just sitting on hand traps basically, and you're just hand trapping your opponent, stopping them from getting to stuff and just like holding on to the Typhon. But in most instances it was outed, and I do like Typhon, but in the same breath, when you make it, you know that's the last thing you're going to do. It's like your turn's almost over basically, so your opponent can rest easy that like there's no more interaction coming. So I did like Typhon as a contingency, but it's yeah, it was interesting. I did play the one Chaos Angel. This stunned a couple of my opponents, especially when I made it with the light and dark. A couple of times I had Necro Crypt on field and I managed to have Lacrima on field, and that was just, it was just wraps from then. Like, he just stood there menacingly, literally. And then the last two cards was the number 11 Big Eye, as well as the Kashtira Shangri-Era, which I don't know where I've put it. But what I will say is I probably would have took out the Kashtira Shangri-Era and put in a Red Eyes Flame Metal Dragon, mainly because against Malice, it's a bit of a pressure card. They find it very, very difficult to resolve some of their Malice names, and it makes them play slightly differently because obviously the Malice monsters are paying life points to revive themselves back, but they're also burning by the Red Eyes Flame Metal, so they run a bit of a timer of the number of effects that they can resolve, and it would have proved to be far better than like putting a Kashtira Shangri-Era on field, which literally just got outed very, very simply. That could have been SP, could have been another Chaos Angel. So having it, the card, the Red Eyes Flame Metal Dragon, would have went a long way in like disrupting exactly what Malice wanted to do. But yeah, it is what it is. And then very quickly, ladies and gents, the side deck, very cut and dry, very, very simple. Played triple Solemn Judgment because board breakers are a thing. I was getting thrusted and talented pause for the majority of the regional. Like, thrust and talents was everywhere because detonators everywhere basically, so it's highly likely that people were like main decking those cards, and just having a way to just kind of like stop that from happening, it goes a long way. Somebody actually flipped Judgment on me. The Judgment is a spell card, and it literally ended my turn. It was rough. I think it was tracked. So yeah, Judgment solid. As well as Solemn Strike, I Solemn struck a duo drive and it ended my opponent's turn. He couldn't extend any further. So these two cards are quite solid right now. Strike's also going second as well, especially if you've got the means to kind of like break a board. For some back row removal, played the one Cosmic Cyclone as well as the double Lightning Storm. I'd probably change Cyclone for a Harpy's Feather Duster because it's got more coverage. There's not that many more continuous spells that you need to kind of like chain this to, so I'll probably change that for a Duster. Lightning Storm was solid, although I didn't see it as much as I would like to. Obviously, the Malice Hate, which is triple Artifact Lancia, goes without saying. As well as the Feindsmith Hate in the form of double Bestial Druisworm and a one Magnum up, just to kind of like mess about with graveyards and all that kind of stuff. And that is it, ladies and gents. All in all, a very, very solid list. I definitely would consider this deck again. However, things are going to change in the upcoming Supreme Darkness format, so I don't know how viable this deck's going to be, but knowing myself, I'm probably going to play something different. But anyway, if there's anything you think I should change, any kind of like text I could have potentially included in this deck or removed, let me know in that comment section below. And we find ourselves at the end of another video. If you did like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff. And I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.